Okay, so that seems to be live. Okay, cool. So it looks like I am live. Okay. Good morning. It is 10 a.m. on December 5th, 2024. So you could kind of say this is day one. And I didn't announce this on Discord. I probably should do that. Actually, you know what? I think I'll go do that right now. So sorry, guys. All of you people that actually aren't hearing me right now. So I'm going to go to my Discord channel. You can't see this right now, but going live for a short session now. And I'll put that I'm talking about AI tool integration into my workflow. Okay, so I just posted that on Discord. There's probably no reason to stay on there. And I'm still getting things dialed in. I don't have my webcam plugged in at the moment, so no big deal. Things are in a bit of disarray. I looked for my animation Truman show, you know, animated little sing-song intro to my live stream, and I can't find it. So, unfortunately, but as I mentioned in my last very brief live stream, which I just deleted because it really was just a test anyway, I had mentioned that I've been pretty happy lately with Krita, Tahoma 2D, and basically all flavors of Blender, in that I've done a lot of ranting over the years about open source software, and it all seems to be in a pretty good place right now. Anyway, so here's the reason I went live this morning was to show you guys some things about workflow. Okay, so the reason this is going to be a short session is because what I have to do right now is write the script for episode 3. Well, it's not quite that simple because, and in the background, just so you know, in the background I'm launching things and I'm kind of doing some stuff to make it so I don't look like a complete idiot as I work here. But so sorry about the very boring visuals here. That's just a picture of Krita. But let me pull up Vegas on my other screen and I'll kind of show you what I've got going. Okay, so on OBS I need to switch screens, and because of some stuff I won't waste your time explaining, the screen sets are wrong. So, okay, there we go. Okay, so just so you know, episode 3 is actually underway. It looks to me like, is that right? Yeah, I'm actually about 4 minutes into it. I kind of forgot that. So all of this material is new. And it's kind of fun. I mean, so it's not like the script isn't written. It's just not complete. And I may have mentioned in a past video that I was having some fun with this character who I'm calling Raja because he's loosely based on Roger, the alien from American Dad, and basically has the same voice. So let me look here at this little sequence right here because this may start the conversation about AI.
It looks like soldiers.
Okay, hang on.
You got all that from a few. Maybe going through grips.
Okay, yeah, that's not right. I had put in some placeholder dialogue that I voiced for Tianara, which obviously sounds about as stupid as possible. Let me see if this is it.
So, what's the plan?
Hey, I know. We need a boat.
Where are we going to find a boat?
Okay, so you can hear some of the I guess you call it simulation distortion, which you get with any kind of digitally generated voice or voice compression, in that the quality of it is a little grainy. Now, it might actually be, this might be time stretched a bit, which would also make it sound a little winky. Like this right here should sound winky.
Where are we going to find a boat?
So you can kind of hear that echoey, like low bandwidth MP3 sound. The interesting thing about it, though, is that this voice for Tianara was...
Hey,
Now that's
I
all
know.
real.
We need a boat.
Where are we going to find a boat?
Okay, so that voice for Tianara was generated from a 10-second sample of my daughter Natalie's voice, who did the voice for Tianara, just to see if it would work. And what I found was, number one, the tools are pretty good, okay? But what you might have to do is drag the AI-generated voice into Reaper, which is what I use for all my audio stuff. A little bit of Audacity, but basically I'm a Reaper guy. It's what I use for like film scores and stuff. Anyway, you might have to bring it into Reaper, add a pitch transposer, and then apply an envelope to the pitch so that you sort of massage the inflection. But the point is, it is in fact possible, and it sounds pretty good. Again, I think this is not quite up to scratch. You can just sort of hear the artifacting, right? So that is something that needs to be looked at. So let me switch back to my other screen. There we go. And then I'm going to check the chat here because the way I've got the screens configured, I can't see it. So bear with me. Okay. So we got Kalpak, Chiziapo, and Inyo-san. Hey guys, good to see y'all. Okay, so I just kind of went over a bit about AI as it relates to voices. My personal assessment is it's a useful tool. Okay, so now you guys, I don't think you guys were here when I very briefly live streamed the other day. So here's my purpose for being here today. Basically, this is day one. So I released both episodes of Salt and Light. Man, it had to have been 2 years ago. You know, it took about 6 months for the episodes to actually hit the street in terms of availability on Amazon Prime and Tubi and all the rest. And my basic approach was, I'm going to wait 2 years. Well, I'm not going to wait 2 years. I'm going to wait as long as it takes to see if the show gets some traction and grabs. Okay, so last month I got the quarterly royalty, and it was like way freaking higher than I expected it to be. Okay, so what I thought was, well, either the distributor buried my show in a bulk sale, say to another country, for example, where they license their whole library to the, you know, to the nation of Kyrgyzstan or whatever. I'm just making up a name. That can happen. But I was like, okay, is that what's going on? Or is it that for whatever reason, the show is just gaining traction? And it turns out it's the latter. The show's just gaining traction. And what I was told was that when this happens, typically it lasts a while. Like once a show starts to grab and is getting attention, most of it, by the way, to be clear and fair, is being driven by Amazon. Most of that is all coming from Amazon. So what happens is, I think what happens is people watch something and then they get a suggestion from Amazon that, hey, you might want to watch this, and my show maybe is getting suggested. But anyway, so now as I'm pulling up my my media viewer so I can show you some other stuff here, the mistake I made when I made my most successful film, I didn't immediately follow it up with the sequel, which I should have done at that time. This would be like 15 years ago, because in the DVD retail climate that existed then, that no longer exists today, I really had a window of opportunity where I could take a movie that was successful, but which I didn't get most of the reward from that. I was paid to make the movie, in essence. And I could have made the sequel immediately and owned all the rights to it. Well, ultimately I did do that, but I did it like 8 years later. And the window was kind of closed compared to what it had been when there was a DVD market for that type of movie. Anyway, I don't want to make that mistake again. So if the marketplace is saying, hey, for whatever reason, we don't completely understand it, but this cartoon is starting to grab, then I would be really stupid not to go ahead and start cranking out more episodes. That's the thing to do now. So anyway, here's what I wanted to show you. The other thing about AI stuff. Let me pull up. Okay, so I've been using Prom AI, I guess. I don't know how they pronounce it. Prom AI or whatever. So you can, it's free to use and blah, blah, blah. So what I wanted to show you was an interesting thing because, as I said, the mandate today is to go ahead and finish the script for episode 3 so that we can go beyond this 4-minute point that you saw shortly a little while ago in Vegas and go ahead and crank out the rest of the episode. So this is interesting to me because I've said to you guys, the little that I have spoken to you recently, I did say that basically we shouldn't be concerned about AI tools. By the time AI tools reach critical mass where everybody is aware of them and what they can do, essentially at that point their market value has reduced pretty close to zero. And so it's always the human element putting those tools to work that creates real value. That's my opinion. Other people may disagree. So what I did was I had this scene in the current episode where everybody's getting up in the morning. And what was interesting to me, these first few images that were generated, were not quite stylistically what I was looking for. I want a little bit more painterly look with the with backgrounds. So what I did was I generated the backgrounds, knowing full well I'm gonna scale them up, paint over them, change them in various ways. But what was interesting is the beginning of this scene is a bit of an awkward situation where Tianara has been bathing in the creek, and then she comes back, and Mel's kind of embarrassed, seeing her and stuff. And I thought, well, the interesting thing about the AI aspect of it for me was that I generated these backgrounds knowing I'll probably use one of them. I'll paint over it, as I say, scale it up, probably change a few things, but basically use it as a starting point. Like this is not a bad replication of the cave in the cave in the side of the mountain that I have in episode 2. Okay, so this could work. And the thing about it is that the scene that I was creating is fundamentally awkward because Tianara has been bathing in the creek, and she's not walking back to the cave naked or anything, but it's just an awkward situation because with the way I'm envisioning it. There's a costume that she was wearing in episode 2, and I'm thinking she's wearing the top now, but not the bottom. But the top does go down to, almost her knees. So it's not like she's uncovered. But the point was, I was like, the signal flow of the storytelling was a little vague to me. Like, how do I balance this out? So, she appears and Mel feels awkward and blah, 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 blah. And when I generated these images here, I didn't intend for it to look like she was in the cave coming out. The prompt that I gave apparently wasn't accurate to what I was looking for. But the thing that I think is really interesting is that once I saw it, especially this one right here, once I saw this, all of a sudden the storytelling idea, how to make it work, came to me. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll have a shot of her at the creek, sort of rising up out of the creek and maybe shaking her hair, right? So she looks a little sexy, but we don't want to be, too sexy. I mean, she's a freaking 14-year-old girl, for God's sake. Okay, but she's sexy to Mel because Mel's 15 years old, right? And so that's what we're toying around with. But by doing the AI thing, it made me think, all I got to do is have her rise up out of the creek, and just set the stage, and then cut to this shot where Mel is coming out of the cave and sort of yawns and stretches, and then Tianara would come in the foreground, actually probably here, or maybe even up the road. If probably not, because I'll probably paint the road out, because really, in the previous episode there was no road. Okay, so but I found it really interesting that just generating the AI images kind of broke open the dam in terms of the idea of how to tell the story. Now we're talking about a segment of show that's going to last maybe 40 seconds. It's really short. But sometimes you get that situation where you just have a little bit of a log jam creatively, and you can just work it out. I mean, you can sort of force it. sort of write from the heart and just write whatever comes to your mind, because that sort of gives you a platform to improve. That gives you something to fix, in essence, and it can be a useful creative tool. But my point here today is that it turns out that generating AI images not only will be helpful from a background painting standpoint, for sure. I don't think the animation tools are where they need to be for me to use them much these days, but we'll see what happens in the next year. But as far as background paintings, not only is it a way to save some work, but also I do find it very interesting that it also resulted in a creative breakthrough here. So it's like you'll see Tianara at the creek. So she won't be in a cave, obviously. So that's got to be painted out. But you'll see her at the cave, or at the creek, and then you'll cut to the cave. Mel shows up. Tia comes in. He looks like a doe in headlights when he sees her. Doesn't quite know how to respond. A little embarrassed, a little awkward. She's feeling a little embarrassed and awkward. She sort of brushes past him, and I put in the script that she brushes past him and says, calm down. Which might be, I don't know if I'm going to keep that. But anyway. And then from inside the cave, she's like, well, so where's Luka? And Mel suddenly, because he just woke up, realizes, yeah, where the heck is Luka? And then Luka shows up and the scene continues. So anyway, my point about all this was basically, and it's really all I wanted to say as far as live streaming, because what I have to do at this point doesn't involve animation, at least not for a few days. I mean, obviously I could transition to animation for an hour, but right now I'm kind of wanting to crank. I really want to get reacclimated to the episode 3 script and finish it. But, and I may mix that with animation. Obviously, I did it before because, again, there's about 4 minutes of episode 3 that's already been animated. But this is to say to you guys, some people in our community are really, really worried about, AI is going to take our jobs and all this sort of thing. And I say, yes, it is going to take some people's jobs. Of course it is. All technology, in some way, shape, and form, does replace people. But most of the people that are super worried about that probably aren't making any money from their art in the first place, actually. Maybe that's cynical. I'm not sure. Others may have an opinion. If you do, feel free to chime in. But the basic thing is, be encouraged, people. These tools may, in fact, help you to take your work to the next level. Not because it does it for you, but because it facilitates your creative process. Okay? So, there's that. Is there anything else I want to share here today? Gosh, I don't know. Not really. I mean, I haven't been doing any painting to speak of for about a month. Other than a commission that I'd love to show, but if I show, I guess I could show it here. Nobody will. It's a gift for someone that's going to, actually this makes my whole point for me that I was telling you guys about. This is a gift for someone for his wife, and her birthday is in a few days. So technically, you wouldn't want to have a situation where she would see it before he gives it to her, but she would never be watching my YouTube channel because she doesn't even know who I am. So anyway, so the idea was that this guy's wife is a, actually I'm looking at Calpeck's comment. I have seen people hate even ChatGPT. The hate for AI is real. Well, and I don't have hate for it. I do have a certain contempt for it, because if you're dealing with large language models, especially in the coding space, okay, there are tools that are very good, that are writing code for us and all this sort of thing. But what I found is that the large language models, by and large, will give completely patently wrong answers at least half the time. Now, the AI-informed results you're getting from Google now, in my experience, seem to be a little better. So if people are hating ChatGPT, I don't think they're probably hating the aspects of it that are kind of worthy of disdain. One of the biggies would be, I ask a question, and instead of answering the question concisely, it's like watching a YouTube video where the person gives you a headline and teases you with what you're going to learn in this video, and then it's like, but before we get to that, let's talk about why we want to ask this question in the first place. And they wind up you're wasting all kinds of time with information that you already knew and did not ask for. That's like totally common in YouTube practice, and it's common in AI practice. You're constantly getting answers that are 3 or 4 paragraphs long when 5 words would have sufficed. However, what I've found is just tell it. Tell it. Please give me a concise answer and only answer the question that I've asked. Don't give me extemporaneous background information or anything like that. And generally, they do tend to respect that. For the record, for those who care, in terms of AI, my favorite large language model is Pi.ai. I think maybe this is based on Mistral. So I actually just asked Pi a question about Dolphin on my laptop. But the reason I like Pi is because of this.
It seems like you can bookmark a location for quick access by pinning it to the quick access section in the Dolphin file.
Okay, that's what I like about it. I can actually, on my phone, I can actually have a conversation. It's got kind of this Scarlett Johansson type voice, which, it's just pleasant. Now there are 8 voices to pick from. But as far as large language models, I think maybe this is based on Mistral. I'm not sure, but it is not the same as ChatGPT. And it just does a pretty darn good job a lot of the time. Okay. So having said that, so here's what happened. So this guy tells me, hey, my wife has been developing this Dungeons and Dragons character for 20 years. She's had this character that she's developed, and whenever she plays D&D, she always uses the same character. So he gives me this really detailed description of the character. And what he wants is an oil painting, an original painting for her, celebrating her character. It's just, for her, it's probably going to be the most thrilling gift she's ever gotten in her life. It's because it's so unexpected. So there are a few points to make about this. One is that there is still a market for original art. And it's generally going to be these niche markets. D&D players that have been, that are millennials who played since high school or whatever, might want to spend a little money on a real painting to mount on their wall, that type of thing. So what I did was I took the description and generated multiple AI concepts, knowing full well that this would be translated later into an oil painting. So they're all, they're pretty good. I didn't particularly love the lute player, but, and frankly, if you really want to be critical of the art per se, the AI is probably better than mine. But my oil painting's okay, and it is an original oil painting. It's actually oil on paper is what it is. I kind of get the benefit of watercolor and oil together. So that's the idea behind that. So I actually created this one as well, just because I was having fun with it. And then ultimately what went to the client was actually 2. Just to be nice, I gave him 2 oil paintings for the price of 1. I'm like, she's bound to like one of them, kind of thing. But I think it's cool that the AI tools got me there compositionally. And then it was up to me, of course, to do the real painting. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And I think that's probably good for today, because I do want to get back to the writing aspect of the show. I sort of figured I would be here for a half hour or less. And so we're kind of right on target for that. So if anybody has a question, there's only 2 people watching. So if anybody has a question, now would be the time to watch or to ask it. Otherwise, in 10, 20 seconds, I'll just go ahead and stop streaming. And probably, maybe back tomorrow or the next day. So, all right. Looks like nobody's really got anything. So, I'm going to refresh this live stream screen, because I'm not totally convinced I'm seeing everything in real time. It looks like I am. Okay, cool. So, all right, that's it, guys. I will probably be back soon, and we'll be getting more into the nuts and bolts and nitty-gritty of creating a cartoon. Oh, wait, Shizuyapo says, you use Tahoma 2D and more, yeah. Yeah, I don't use OpenTunes. I haven't used OpenTunes for years. When I started, I was using OpenTunes, and I was an early adopter of Tahoma 2D. And I will say that the latest generation of Tahoma 2D what I found is the portability aspect has been pretty darn good, which means if I have an instance of Tahoma 2D on this machine, which is still running Windows 8.1, I was able to download the app image for Tahoma 2D on my Linux laptop and do the port it over such that all of my settings and stuff were retained. So yeah, I'm using Tahoma 2D. I'm using Krita, which I'm basically using the latest. So it would be 5.2.6, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, 5.2.6. So again, same thing with Krita. What I found is that if I keep my Krita resources, this setting right here, if I keep my resources in a separate folder that I know the location, I can bring recent versions of Krita onto any machine, and as long as I point it to a folder that copies all my settings over, they transfer fine. So other than Krita and Tahoma 2D, I have been using various flavors of Blender, which range from 2.79 to the 2.8x range, and then I have actually played around as well with the 4.x version. So hopefully that answers your question. And with that, I am signing off, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow. But I think what I'll do is I'll try to remember, if I'm going to live stream, I'll do what I did today, which is go over to Discord, post it on my Discord as an announcement. And I'll say Chiziapo, probably something like 2/3 of, well, no, probably closer to 1/3 of the 2 episodes of Salt and Light that are out there were done with Tahoma. I would say it's about 2/3 Krita and about 1/3 Tahoma, and basically Blender is sort of peppered in there in different places for various reasons as needed. So anyway, that's it for today. I will catch you guys later.